So, welcome to the second session of our Android web series with Rohan. So, Rohan is joining us from Louisiana State University, LSU. I know everybody's working from home these days, so he took the time to help us run this series and help other students who have no idea or maybe a little bit of an understanding as to what Android development is. Unfortunately, last week's session we had to cut short because I lost power while we were doing the live stream. There was a big storm that came in hit. However, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to start off that second app that he was building in the middle of it today. And then we have his regular programming that we listed out. He's going to cover within that 2 hour sessions. Now, don't hesitate to ask questions online on the chat. We're taking live questions. We're gonna stop and interrupt Rohan in the middle of the program. So don't be scared to. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Always interrupt. The more interactivity we have from you all, the better it's going to be overall, right? So that being said, quick introduction as to why we're running this series. So we are Rohan is a lead, one of our leads for Google's developer student clubs. So he's been running a club, teaching students a lot of these skills that he learned over time. And he dedicated his time to bring some of that online that he was teaching last year. So for all of you can join and enjoy. So that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Rohan to take it over and go from there.
Perfect. Thank you, Madhusha, for the introduction. It's pretty cool. So yes, so as Madhusha mentioned, last week's session was cut short because of a small technical problem. I think there was a power cut where Madhusha was. So we were actually halfway through the favorite celebrity app. So here's the actual schedule that was, the regular schedule. We had planned to do our Hello World app and our favorite celebrity app last Saturday. And so we completed this app in half. So now what we're going to do is actually we're going to start this app from the beginning because we did not cover as much. So we can actually start from the beginning. So folks who didn't tune in last week, they can start anew. So you don't need to know what we did last week. Now, we are actually planning to do two apps today. One is the currency converter app and the favorite movies app. However, as I said, we're going to be doing the favorite celebrity app and this one, the currency converter app today. So this will be moved. This favorite movies app will probably go to next week, or we might give it as a challenge just to see if, as for you to test your skills. And the solution code is always on GitHub. All these projects, all the code is going to go on GitHub. I think the code for the first 5 apps are already on GitHub, so you can check that out on my GitHub. Probably the links must be there in the description.
Yeah, the links are on the video description.
Perfect. Yes, so all of you can check it out, and the solution code is always there. Cool. So the agenda for today, pretty exciting. 2 apps. The first one for about 45 minutes is our favorite celebrity app. And then we're going to follow that with about 1 hour of our currency converter app. And after that, we're going to have a dedicated questions, a 10 minutes time just for your questions. And then we're going to talk about what we're going to do next week. Now, as I mentioned last week also, this dedicated question session, sure, that's for questions. However, you can always put your questions in at any time in the YouTube chat section. And Madhusha and Yudesh, they will interrupt me and tell me the question so that we can cover it. So don't hesitate. This is a very interactive session. It's not just a talk, a one-way. You're not on a one-way road. It's a two-way street. So I'm going to listen to what feedback or questions you have, and I'm definitely going to answer it. So, without any further ado, let us begin our favorite celebrity app. So, it looks like this. Some of the skills we're going to cover here is the biggest important thing, which is new for us, is something called OnClickListeners, which basically, when you click a button, we want to implement some functionality. So here it is showing that this message here, This is something called toast, which is the second important thing we're going to learn from this app. So we're going to have an image here, a button here. You click on the button and it tells you a specific custom message. Lot to cover, pretty exciting. Let's begin. So before we begin, let us download the image of our favorite celebrity that we want to display here. So if you, you are free to download your favorite celebrity. Mine is Conan O'Brien, so I have downloaded these and I will download it along with you now. So Conan O'Brien pictures, search for your favorite celebrity's pictures. I will take this one, right click, save image as, the usual way, save the image. Save it in a folder like a downloads folder or anywhere you want. Leave it as default name. One picture will be fine. So if you have one picture, that's nice. So your picture is in the downloads folder. Perfect, that's your setup. Now, this is where we had, this is the progress that we had last week. But as I said, we're going to start anew. So we get some practice in, and folks who didn't tune in last week, they also can follow along with today's session. So let's create a new Android Studio project. File, new project. And you should get a page like this where you have these templates for which activity. The usual thing, always empty activity. Next. For the application name. So I'm going to save this as favorite. So save it celebrity app. Now, if you have, if you tuned in last week, then you might have to put a 1 or something because this name might already have been taken. I'm going to save it in this folder. So save it in the folder of your choice. And I'm going to save it in a folder, and then the next folder part is the project name. Leave the package name as it is. This is only important when you are publishing your app on the Play Store. So give your whatever name you want to give for your app. Package name can be left to the default. Save it in your preferred location. Language, we're going to be coding always in Java. Keep your minimum API level to 19 and keep this to the defaults. When you're done, finish. And it should start to create your project. So we always wait for this to turn into tick marks. When you get all tick marks, then your project is ready. You will get two files here open by default, the layout file and your coding file. So Java for your coding and XML for your visual layout. So one question we had last time is some people, they didn't get a page like that. I mean, they didn't get a layout like this. So let me close everything. So if you have something that's totally empty, it's fine. Open the projects pane on the top left. So you get the file structure, like when you open File Explorer, you get a simplified file structure. Now, to open those two files that was open by default, go to App, Java, click on the first one, the package name that is the default color, not the green ones. Expand that and double click on main activity. You get the coding part of it, which we're going to write our first lines of code today. And for our layout files, that is always in app, res, layout. And here you have your XML file. XML is the language we are going to use for creating our layout. Now, if you get a page like this where you see all this complex code, it seems overwhelming, it's totally fine because here there's a toggle switch for text and design. Be sure to be in the design section of it. So this is a GUI, a graphical user interface, where you can create your layout by using simple drag and drop. Just like website, you get those like Google Sites, it has a nice drag and drop editor. And behind the scenes, the XML code is written for us. So we won't have to deal with the text. Now, one setup which we didn't do last time, which we can do now, is this looks like an empty app. This doesn't look like a phone. In order to make it look like a phone, be sure to click on this I drop-down menu and then select Show Layout Decorations. Then you get it looking like an actual phone with this app bar here, this notifications bar here, and then your back switch, home switch, recent apps button over here. So now it looks like our proper app. And so I hope all of you are here. And again, I'm not going to look at the YouTube section because Madhusha and Yudesh will let me know. So be sure to put your questions there. and I'll be happy to help you. So I'll give it some time. I don't know if I'm going too fast. So we'll wait for a few seconds, let everyone catch up. All right. I think we should be fine. We do not do anything much. So now we are going to start to build our layout as we have planned. So this is our plan. So first we need an image. So let us go to our Android Studio project and let us delete this Hello World text tree that was included by default. So you can click it from the component tree or select it from your preview pane and select the delete key on your keyboard. It just deletes it. Yeah, select it from here and delete. Perfect, it's gone. So you're empty in your component tree. Now, here's the thing. That image that you downloaded, it is not included in your project. So whenever you have downloaded an image, you want to include it in your app, you have to import it in your project. So here's how we do it. So go to your downloads folder, right? Or the folder where you have downloaded it. So this is here. Click on it, and you can do a Control X or Control C or the equivalent thing for Mac. And be sure to go in your app directory, res, which stands for resources, then expand drawable. Here is where we're going to paste our image. So click on this directory and Control V to paste it here. Select OK. And now this is an important step. So don't click OK. If you have clicked OK, no problem, we can fix it. Now the thing is, for our image name, there are some requirements that are there. So all images must have only small letters, so no capitals here, right? No space bars, so you can use underscore as the space, and no special characters apart from underscore. So let's see what we can do. So save it something like this, where you have all small letters. This is pretty important. It won't work and it doesn't even tell you why it doesn't work. So all small letters, no special characters like this apostrophe here for O'Brien, and no space bars. So be sure to have an underscore and click on OK. You should see the image here. So now the image is imported in our project. If you accidentally clicked OK, or if you want to change the image name, not a problem. Right click on the image, refactor, and rename. So then you can get the same screen, and then click on refactor. Nice. Now drag an image view from our palette, which is a list of all the widgets that you can use. Drag it from here onto our preview pane or our component tree. So now it asks you, all right, here's an image view, but what image do you want to put in that image view? So expand project, and you will notice the image that you just imported in your project is now visible here. So click on it and click OK. Nice. Now you have this image view here on our screen. So if you notice now when you click on it, you have these width and height as wrap content. So let us actually make it a bit smaller for now, so it will fit on our screen, and let us run our app. So now I assume you have your emulator set up. We set that up last week. So if you, I'm sure Madhusha and Yudesh must have left links for the previous video session. You can find it on this YouTube channel too. So select your emulator from here. So I'm going to select this one which we have created, and then all you have to do is click on the play button. And now this app, it's first going to start up our emulator, and then it's going to run our app. So let us give it a few moments for our app to run. I'll take a quick look at the time. 15 minutes, we're doing pretty well. So until this loads, if there are any questions, I can probably do that. It would take about, perfect. Seems that the emulator has opened up. And now we are going to expand the build pane, and we're going to wait for all the tick marks. All right, everything's done successfully. It's installing our app on our phone and launching the app. And now we'll start the app. And oh, what's this? You notice something, that the image has stuck to the top left of our screen. So this extra white portion is because that's part of the image, but it's stuck to the top left. But Rohan, didn't we keep it in the middle? Well, that's a quiz question. So what exactly should we do? So if you attended last week's session, you can think about it. I'll give you some time. If you have figured it out, yes, constraints. So now you see these circles here, they are empty. And if you see this error here, it says the view is not constrained. So it will directly jump to 0, 0, which in computer science, all screens for 0, 0 is not here as in math or science. It is always the top left. Hence, our image is jumping to the top left. So now to keep it centered, select the image and center it within our screen. So constrain the top to the top, bottom to the bottom. So now it is pulled equally from both directions vertically. So now it will be centered vertically. Now center it horizontally as well. So now it is centered, it is being pulled from the right and from the left with equal
Rohan,
amount.
there's a question.
Uh-huh.
Somebody's asking Flutter extension here. As in, is there a Flutter extension? I'm assuming.
So, good question. So, this is like completely native development. So, we aren't going to use like anything related to Flutter here. You can build Android apps with Flutter, of course. That's a very good technology. But this whole dynamic session is going to focus on native development. But good question, right? Perfect. So here we have constrained our image horizontally. So it's being pulled from the right and from the left with equal amounts, pulled from the top and from the bottom with equal amounts. You can always change the bias by clicking on the image and pulling it more from one direction. And you can mess around with these. Double click to reset it to 50. Now, you might be asking like why we have to do these constraints. So
Rohan, sorry to bother you. There's another
absolutely, yeah.
question. Somebody's asking what image types does Android allow?
Very good question. So here I didn't mention it as such. Let's it's best to always stick with traditional types like JPG and PNG and any usual image types. Sometimes if you download an image from Google, sometimes it returns something called a WEBM format image or something or WEBP. So be sure to download something that's like this may not always work in Android Studio. So the usual formats like JPEG and PNGs work all the time. So it's best to stick with that. Very good question. That's good. So next here. So perfect. So now we see that our image is centered. However, we didn't even go into why are we constraining our views on our screen. Now, this is something we're going to talk about. In our layout, in our preview pane, you notice at the top it says pixel. So click on it and here it shows you all the devices that you can use to show your preview here. So now it's a 5-inch screen, it's a pixel. Now what if you go on a taller, a 6.3-inch Pixel 3 XL? You notice now the image is still centered. So it'll be more apparent when we choose like a tablet that's even more wider. You see 2560 times, this. You see now it is still centered. So instead of specifying absolute values, like if you always build your layout for this phone and specify keep it like 50 pixels from the left and 50 pixels from the right, it centers it. But the thing is, when you go on a larger device, then it will give you problems. So that's why we use constraints. So always constrain our views. Very nice. Now, if you look at our layout, the thing is, this image, it takes the entire screen. So now we're going to talk about these things, wrap content and match constraint. So let us go back here. And now you notice this width and height. So now we want our image to stretch all the way towards its constraints. So you can specify absolute values, such as how we did here, right? Changes it here. Or you can use something called match constraint. So your width of this view, match constraint, it now stretches all the way to the end of its constraints. And it says 0, but it's technically match constraint. Now for height, choose match constraint. So it will stretch all the way vertically. And now you have stretched all the way vertically. Very nice. Now, so I hope all of you are here. And yes, Madhusha and Yudesh, at any point, uh, if there are any questions, so please interrupt me. I'll be happy to help. So I assume everything's all right so far. So now we have our image that's ready. However, these white corners at the end, it doesn't look very beautiful. Like I selected match constraint. So why isn't the image stretching all the way to the edges of our container? Now that's a very good question. And that depends on what kind of image we have downloaded. So let us double click on this. You notice this? This image is much more taller than it is wide. This is the actual aspect ratio of it. So here it is trying to fit the image within a container. Now we want to get rid of this white borders. It doesn't look really good. So now we want to learn a new thing called scale type. So let us see what those are. So our scale type. So images don't always fit in the containers.
Sorry to cut you off, Rohan.
Absolutely.
Is there a particular size
Uh,
that we should consider when you're adding an image?
Good
Because if you
question.
have a very small, like 50 by 50 pixel, and it's just not gonna look too well, right? So
Absolutely.
can you clear that?
Absolutely. Very good question. So this we always prefer to use like larger images that you can scale down, because when you scale down an image, it doesn't uh, everything is still clear. However, if you have like a really small image, like as Yudesh gave an example, a 50 by 50, and if you expand that image to fit the size of this container, then it gets pixelated, and you can actually see the individual pixels, and it isn't clear. So always we should try to use like larger images. So a trick on Google is, if you are here, then you see like uh, there's a place where show similar. This you can mess around with these settings, and there's a way where it shows you all the available pictures on the internet of the same image and with different dimensions. So there's a way to do it. You can see that. But yes, the answer is always try to take a big image that you can scale down. Good question. So now in our image scale types, when our image doesn't fit in our container, we must scale the image. As you just said, if our 50 by 50 image is too small, we must scale it to be much larger to fit in our container. And so it doesn't give that very ugly white borders at the end. We want our image, right, the beautiful, colorful image, to fill the whole container. So let us talk about some image scale types. Now, the current one is center. So this is the same image that we have, the Conan O'Brien image, and the center image scale type, it doesn't perform any kind of scaling. So you notice now, the image that we downloaded was extremely large. It was 2000 pixels by about 2000 pixels, some hundreds, but it's in the 2000 range. So what the center scale type did, this is our container, it did not scale it. So it did not scale it down. It kept the image that was very large, and all it did was it cropped the excess portion. So it threw away all this portion, right? And it kept only the part that was fitting in the container. So you don't need to memorize all of this. You can always try all of them and see which one suits you best. But we're just going to go in brief on what all of them are. Then there's one called center inside that downscales the image. So the image that was extremely large, of the 2000 by 2000 pixels image, it downscaled it such that it fit in the container. However, it gives you this empty part of the container. So that's a trade-off. So the previous one, it gave you the whole image. I mean, it fitted the whole container, but here it doesn't. I mean, it'll always change for different images, but these are just some things to note. And it centers it within the container. Then is fit center, which it kind of does the same. If you're ever confused, just test all of them. We'll do it live in the app, so don't worry. We're just going over some slides. Then there's fit start, which it downscales it or scales it up such that it fits the container, but then it sticks it to the start. Start is always left. So we're not saying fit left. Now this is a good concept. is in English, everything goes from left to right. So start is equal to left. However, if your phone is like an has a language of Arabic, let's say, or any other language that goes from right to left, right? So then fit start will stick our image to the right side of this. So that's why I always use fit start and fit end instead of fit left or fit right. It doesn't even exist. Fit left and fit right doesn't even exist, and that's why. So always use start and end so that whichever user is using the phone from whichever place of the world they are using it from, they will always get a good UI experience. Anyway, fit start, fit end. Now, fit XY. So the previous ones were fine. This is an important one, fit XY. So you might be thinking, fine, it fits the entire container now. There's no empty portions of this container. However, do you notice some problem here? Yes, the image is totally distorted. The aspect ratio is totally not respected. And now you have this image of Conan that doesn't really look beautiful. It doesn't do justice to his beautiful face. We need to get it in the exact aspect ratio. So fit XY is usually not used for proper images because it destroys the aspect ratio, which is the height times the width, right? Or the other way around, but it destroys that aspect ratio. So fit XY is good for, let's say, an image of a color. So if you have a small image of, let's say, like a small red rectangle that you want to fit it for the entire container, then fit XY will help. So try to avoid fit XY for images with actual objects that have some detail to it. Now, the most commonly used one is center crop. So what this does is, if you notice, the entire container is filled and the aspect ratio is respected. Now it looks like a proper picture. So the thing is, the crop of the scale type, center crop. So what it does is, it fits it in the container, but then it crops the excess portion of this container, the part of the image that didn't fit in the container. So the image was a bit more taller than it was wide. So this must be probably the image, right? And so it cut the excess portion. It cut the excess portion and it removed the top and the bottom portion. So usually this is what we usually prefer because it respects the aspect ratio and it fills the entire container. Now I've bored you with all this theory stuff. Let us actually put it into practice and let us see how it works. So click on your image and find this property called scale type. It'll usually be in the common attributes portion of it. So in the scale type, you can try fit XY and then you see it becomes more taller. It doesn't look as good. So center crop, you can try that out, which it crops the top and the bottom portion of it. So the image looks good with center crop. You can try it out with different devices. So it centers it and crops it out. So you can mess around with these, and we'll just stick with center crop because we primarily are going to build for our phone, and it looks good with center crop. So I hope all of you have reached this section. We just discussed scale type of our image. So yes, if there are any questions, Madhush and Yudesh will interrupt me best. So I'll answer those questions. Perfect. So now we are actually going to start do our code part of it. So when we click on this button, we should implement some code. But first, let us include this button. So how are we doing on time? Perfect. We have 15 minutes for this. So let's implement this button. Usual thing, drag and drop from the palette onto our layout screen. This button is here. That's nice. Now, always constrain this button as usual. So bottom goes to the bottom of the screen. So here could be a confusion. So what we'll So here's a confusion. So this image can take the whole screen. So now when I click on this, it's actually choosing the image. So for this confusion, click on the button here. Bring the bottom of this. Now be careful. Are you choosing the screen or the bottom of the image view? So that will be confusing for people. So what we'll do is, let us give a specific height like 100 dp, which is the unit. So 100 dp. So now we can clearly see what's going on. So we'll change this later, but let's leave it at this. Now for a button, let us constrain the bottom of the button to the bottom of the screen, right of the button to the right of the screen, left of the button to the left of the screen. Now, here comes the tricky part. So observe here, the image and the top of the button, bottom of the image, top of the button, they are sticking together. So now what we'll have to do is keep this as it is, but now the bottom of the image should not touch the bottom of the screen. So hold the control key or similar on Mac, and then click on this, the bottom constraint. It deletes it. So now it is being pulled only upwards. Now, the bottom of the image should be stuck to the top of the button. And now, if you do match constraint, you get this beautiful thing where the image, it sticks to the top of the screen, to the top of the button, and it's horizontally also it's fit within our phone, and this is perfect. If you want, you can give some margins to these. Not really recommended as such, but you can mess around with these and add some margins. Now, here's like a quiz question for those folks who attended last weekend, last Saturday. We want to change the text of this button to something that like see what Conan has to say, or see what your favorite celebrity, see what say Miley Cyrus has to say. So what is your favorite celebrity? So how would we change the text of this button? So I'll give you some time to figure it out. If you have figured it out, very nice. Yes, click on the button. In the attributes pane, find the text attribute. Nice. See what Conan has to say. Don't worry about the capitalization. It will always turn into all caps. So this is done. Very nice. So now you have come quite far. You have an image working here. You have a button here. The button shows the text that you wanted to show. Now is our thing that we wanted to cover today was this OnClickListener. So we covered the layout portion of it. The layout looks nice. Now the OnClickListener, which is part of the coding. So let us see how we do that. Now let us go into our main.activity.java. If you don't have this open, app, Java, package, main.activity. Double click on this and it opens this pane. Nice. Now you see this Java code. So here's pretty interesting. We're going to write our first lines of code. So onCreate is similar to your main method in Java. So whenever your app is created, well, think of it like whenever the app is created. It's not exactly correct, but for the like initial level, let's think of it like when the app is created, this code is executed. This is the default code. Let's not worry about this. Now we're going to add our new method here. So you can write the same code.
Sorry to
Absolutely, yes.
jump in here. Quick couple of questions. There's someone asking, can you explain how you got the bottom at explain how you got the button at the bottom like that again from Yusuf Hanani.
Absolutely. Let me cover that question.
And also slow it down a little bit. I think you're jumping a little too fast at certain points. Just make sure that everyone can fully engage. So
absolutely, yes. I apologize if I was going too fast, everyone. So yes, I will slow it down. And yes, absolutely. So I will. So let us remove all the constraints. Control, remove, and you can even remove it from the attributes pane. So click on this and you remove the constraint. Nice. Now, if you notice here, so that's cool because the image is constrained to the top of the button. But anyway, how do we get the button to the bottom? So first, let's constrain it horizontally. So now you notice it's only being pulled from the left, right? So it will stick to the left. Now, if you pull it from the right also, so it's like a tug of war game where both sides are pulling it equally. So the rope will stay in the center. The rope here is this button. So now here we want to, in the vertical direction now, we want to specify this button to be only linked, to only touch the bottom of the screen. So don't put the top constraint and the bottom constraint. Instead, only stick with the bottom constraint. So what happens is it's a tug of war, but one team, like all the people are on one side, so they're going to pull it completely. So the rope is, of course, going to go only to this side. So think of all of this as a tug of war game. Like who pulls from which side by how much intensity. Now, how much intensity? That is defined by this bias. So now it's being pulled from the left and from the right. You can make one team stronger by shifting the slider to one side. So you can say the right team is completely overpowered. They have really strong people, and the left is just toddlers. Or you can say it's an equally balanced team. So you can set it to a common trick is double click on this and it resets it to in the middle 50. So that is done. Now for our image, the top of the image, we constrain. So let me actually do this too, because I think I went too fast there. So I'm going to remove all the constraints of this image. So now this image is not constrained to anything. So now let us see how do we set the image in this layout. So first we'll always set the button here. So the button is anchored to the bottom of the screen. Now for our image, let us pull it from the top of the screen. So only the top wins now because no one is pulling it from the bottom. Now let's link the bottom of this image to the top of this button. So instead of the bottom of the screen, link it to the top of the button. So now it is being pulled equally from the top and from the bottom. So it stays in the center between the top of the screen and the top of the button. So that's it's centered vertically. Now for the horizontal section, so if it gets confusing, you can reduce the size of this. So set it to width 50 dp. And so reset the vertical bias to 50 so it is centered. Now constrain the right of the image to the right of the screen. So it's being pulled all the way to the right. So that's because it's not being pulled at all from the left. So now what we do is we pull the left of the image to the left of the screen. So now it's being pulled equally from the left and from the right. So no team wins. It's always in the center. Pulled equally from the top and from the bottom. Not bottom of the screen, but it's being pulled from the top of the button. The top of the button pulls the bottom of the image. It will get a little confusing here. So basically, if you highlight this, you notice this blue line here. It shows you where it's constrained to. So it is constrained to the top of this button. Now we have put hard-coded values. But what we want it to happen is we want this image to expand all the way across the left and from the right and across vertically also. So now we have this very special property called match constraint. So match constraint, it fills the entire like width. So it checks where's the width means horizontal. So where is the left constraint? All right, it's to the left of the screen. Good. Where's the right constraint? All right, it's to the right of the screen. Now that's what you have told Android. When you say match constraint, it sets the width to the edges of your constraint. So left of the screen and right of the screen. It is stretched. Now for the height, do the same thing. Match constraint. So what we do is we touch the, like we fill, similarly how we did for the horizontal, we do it for the vertical also. Now, one good important thing to note is the image doesn't fill all the way to the bottom of the screen. Why is that? You can take some time to think about it. Yes, it is because the bottom of the image is constrained to the top of the button, not to the bottom of the screen. So hence it sticks to the top of the button. So I hope the layout is clear now. If there are any questions, I can answer it now.
Yeah, there's one more question.
Uh-huh.
Is it required to specify strings in the strings XML? And if so, why is that required? It's another question from Dalton.
Very good, Dalvin. Good question. So now we won't really look at this warning. We'll just type the hard-coded text. Next week, we're going to learn to put our strings in this file called strings.xml. So for now, for the current stage, we can just type it here itself. Good question. So we will do this next week. Next week we'll in one of our apps we're going to discuss this. Good question.
Yeah, I think that's it for now. So you
That's
can
it. Perfect.
continue. Great.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Desh. So now our next thing. So all of you, I assume that you will have a layout like this. Now we're going to switch over to our .java file. Let me have a quick look at the time. All right. So the Java file. At a Java file now is where we write our code. So here, onCreate method is like main. Let us create a new method now. So public void. Let's call this on button clicked. So the Java convention of camel case, right? And then for parameters, pass a parameter called of type view. Now, if you get something red, click on this and click Alt Enter and then choose import. So you might have to import. Whenever you see something red, just click on this bulb and usually click on import or Alt Enter and import. And now add some lines of code here. Perfect. Now, what do we do here? Here's a hint. On button clicked. So basically what we want to do is, when the button is clicked, we want our Android app to run the code that we specify within this method. So we want to link our button here. When this button is clicked, we want this method to be executed. We want this code to run here. So how do we do that? So here's a cool thing. Always to do that, create a method in your Java file that has this parameter of view with a capital V and then any variable name here. View is fine. Now go to your XML file, select the button within your component tree or preview. Here you see this attribute on click. So in the drop down menu, you will see the method that you just created. So this method is the same, this on button click is the same method that you just created here. So in this on click, select this method. So now something really cool happens is when you tap this button, Android checks, does this button have a method specified in its onClick property? If it has, Android checks it. All right, this button is clicked. All right, I will check. Oh, onClick. Oh, it has something. So on button clicked. So now it searches in your Java file for an on button clicked, on create, on button clicked. All right, I found it. So now Android runs the code that you specify here. So now to test if everything is working here, let us log. So to log in Android apps, you can just type a shortcut called log d. So there are some channels here like error, debug, information, message, result, and this is a funny one. This is WTF, but that's a funny thing. So we'll log in the debug channel and click on it, and it sends you this thing. For tag, you can just type anything like debug, and for the message, you can type like button clicked. So now let us restart our app. So click on this button here, restart the app, and now let's have a look at our run pane here. So the app is, let's wait for the tick marks. So let's give it some time. And now we should observe our layout should be updated. So we will have our new layout here. Perfect, the layout looks as we wanted. Now head over to this run pane. This run pane is like your console in like a Java app, in your Java program, or like it's your console. So now when this button is clicked, it searches the on-click property, on button clicked. It searches for a method with this name in our code file, which is our Java file. It finds it and it executes this code. So technically, we should see this button clicked logged here when we tap this button. So let's see if it's working. Perfect. You notice this when this button is clicked, it calls this. So very nice. You have created your on-click listener here. So in a way, it is an on-click listener, but it basically is to handle your event, which is when a button is clicked, run something, do something. So here is that something that's going to happen. So now here, we don't want the log because our user won't check logs ever. This is only for the developer. The user will see what's on the screen. So now we're going to introduce a new thing called toasts. So toast is this message that appears at the bottom of the screen. That is a short message to provide simple feedback. So keyword here is short message. So you want to only specify like it's short in duration and also in like the amount of characters here. So for short messages like sending message here in your like a Gmail kind of app or any email kind of app. Some example where you would use this is like when an error occurs. So let's say if there's an error, so you can say here error downloading weather, let's say for a weather app. Commonly, you must be seeing this toast appear in developers. Usually we do this. I mean, they usually do this is press again to exit. So when you click on the back button, it shows this toast. When you click again, the app exits. For our testing purposes, if you want to test that if something happens, so you can just show a toast and you know that the code is working fine. So implementing a toast is very easy. It's only one line of code. So it is toast.makeText. So if the text is too small, don't worry, we'll do it in the code itself. So yes, so I'll show you in Android Studio also. So just one line of code where you pass in a context, which who is showing this text, who is showing this toast, then the message, and then the duration. So all theory is fine, but let's actually see it in action. So now head over to your Java file. Now here what we want to do is type in with a capital T toast, don't click enter. So you'll have this autocomplete options, there's two options here. So the first one is the actual class, toast class. The second one is this like a construct in a way. So when you click on it, it writes some code for you. So be sure to select the second option that says create a new toast.
We actually have, sorry, Ron, we have
Absolutely.
someone that's facing issues. She's saying that it's log.d
Ah,
brackets forward and backwards.
uh-huh.
She probably want to clarify that.
So I believe you're asking like what is this part? I believe you're asking.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the question she has.
Yes, absolutely. So this is not actual code here. If you notice when we put the left arrow, right arrow, this is something that's provided by Android itself that just helps you to understand what parameters passed here. So we can just ignore this. So basically, I'll write this code again. So you can type with small letters LOGD. So it writes this code for you. So click enter and you have this code written for you. Now in the tag, you can just type any tag for now. Just like debugging, right tag. That is this portion of the log. A second thing is a message. So here we can type something like button clicked. So Control C, Control V. And now to comments in Java, highlight the thing and then Control slash. So it's just like Java. This is IntelliJ, by the way, like built on the IntelliJ platform. So if you don't know what IntelliJ is, not to worry. Just the comments as we do in normal programming languages. Just two lines here. Now let's restart this app and so now it will let us open the run pane when the app starts. And perfect. Now we click on this and now perfect. It says debugging and this. So yes, I hope that's answered your question. So I forgot the name, but I hope it answered your question. Perfect. So now I'll read this line and also this. So now we'll type a toast. So toast with capital T. Click on the second option, and you have this code written for us. So now the context. So we won't go into the in depth of it. Let's just stick to the interesting, the basics part of it. So for the text part, here you can type something like um, hello Rohan, or hello your name, and leave everything as it is and restart the app. And now it won't log anything, but now it will show you. So we don't need to open this run pane. So now let's see the magic. So have a quick look at the time, right? 21. So now we click on this and we have this toast that appears here. So if you have reached till here, we are 99% done. So we have learned a lot about layouts. We have written our first lines of code, which is just a very basic thing. And so very nice that you have come here so far. Mess around with these messages if you want. You change these messages here. Like you can have something like, hi Rohan, do you want to host late night? So you could have like Conan, who is asking you if you want to host late night. Have fun with this, experiment around with it. And this is basically our app. So uh, the code is changed here. When you click on it, it shows this message. But hold on a second, that message was had so many words, so you may want to see it for a little longer. So then you can change the duration part of it. Instead of length underscore short, you can do length underscore long, these two options here. Select long and restart the app. And now you can see here this see what this toast lasts you for much longer now. So now our last thing to do is, if you notice here, it matches our app name. However, what we wanted to show is something like this. See what Conan has to say, or see what Conan says.
Actually, I have a question. When you selected that, when you did that little thing where it says long length, as in, what does that do? Does that delay the button response?
Good question. So this is actually like how long the toast will display. So
Okay, yeah.
So like Android has only allowed us to specify one of these two options, length, short or long. So we can't specify like any, like do it exactly for 5 seconds or something. So they want to keep it like a uniform, like a toast will only appear for short or for long. So this is the duration of the toast, how long the toast will appear. So now it is long, and it'll appear for a few more seconds, then short. And so for 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 seconds, and short would appear for maybe about 2 to 3 seconds. So let's experiment with that. And so so 1, 2. Oh, so it's about 2 seconds. So short is about 2 seconds, long is about 4 seconds. So yes, so this is the length of the toast. Perfect. So now our last step is, let's change this text here. So as I forgot the name, but someone had mentioned, I think it was Dalvin or someone else, the strings.xml. So now here is where we have a short experience with messing with strings.xml. So under your app, under res, under values, open strings.xml. And you notice this XML code. We don't need to understand the in-depth of it, like what exactly it means. You can just modify this portion of it, and it updates this. So here you can have something like, this is the last step to see what Conan has to say. And you can change this to your celebrity name. Changes, you can mess around with it to your liking. And when we restart the app, our app should be ready. So this is our last step. So let's have a look at our final app. And see what Conan has to say, which is this string here. And see what Conan has to say. You click on this and it shows you a toast for length short, 2 seconds. So very nice. So we have completed our first app. So if there are any quick questions, we can do that, or else we can move over to our second app that we have planned for today, which is our currency converter app. So so if there are any quick questions, we can do it now, or I think I'll move on.
No, we don't have questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Desh. So now our currency converter app. So we type in our value in US dollars here, and we get our we can convert it to Canadian dollars, Indian rupees, or euros. So you can add more currencies here if you want. You can mess around with these. And so a couple of things we're going to learn, many things here, is in the layout part of it. We're going to learn this very important thing called material design. Some extra stuff like edit text widgets. So how you enter text in Android, right? How do you enter text here? Buttons, you have already done it. So we're going to have some challenges with it. So little more complex constraint layout, because here there are many views, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 views. So it becomes a little more complex. And we learned this new thing, OnClickListeners, we learned it. We learned this new thing called Find View by ID. So a lot to cover here, pretty exciting app. Let us get started. We go back here to our Android Studio and we start a new project. File, new, can't get this. File, new project. We get this template screen as usual, empty activity. So you must be used by now to how we do it. And now here we should do something like currency converter app, and I'm package name, leave it as it is if you want. If you want, you can do com.yourname.appname. Your wish, you can leave it as it is. Then for a save location, save it at your location of your choice. I'm going to leave it as it is. Language Java, minimum API level, leave it to 19, and leave everything as it is. And when you're ready, happy with everything, finish. Now it will ask you. Okay, it opened a new Android Studio window here. So we have a new window here. Let's wait for the tick marks. The usual thing, once the tick marks, once we get all tick marks, then here we get those two, the layout file and the Java file. So layout file and the Java file that we're used to. We can minimize the build pane that shows all these tick marks. We don't need it anymore. And now let us check our here. Remember we said click on this I drop down menu and then click on show layout decorations. So you get that app bar, the notifications pane, and this back button, home button, and recent apps button. So now it looks like a real phone, like a real app, and it looks very interesting. Now delete this text view. We don't need it anymore. So we'll delete this, and now you should have an empty layout. So once you're ready here, we can begin our app. Now, very nice. So let us start by observing what we need in our app. We need, let us start with something called an edit text. Right here, text views are used for displaying information. Edit texts are used for entering information. So let us head back over to our Android Studio. Here, if you notice in the common, you have this text view. However, go over to text, you'll see this plain text. So drag this plain text. Plain text is basically edit view. Drag it anywhere you want. Now, think about what's the next step. Here's a hint. You figure it out. Very nice. So we want this to be at the top of the screen, right? As in our.
Sorry to jump in once again. Could you repeat that bit a little again, because there was a glitch in the system and it delayed a little bit. So.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So I'll restart with. So let us delete this edit text. So we have this empty layout now. You see, nothing is in the component tree. It's just this root layout, but nothing is really in the component tree. Now, in the comment section, we will notice this like some group of like common views here. However, this text view is useful for displaying information. Now we're going to learn a new thing called Edit Text. So head over to the Text tab of our palette. Check this plain text view from here. Drag it on our layout or in our component tree. And perfect. Now what would be a next step? So here's a hint. So I'll give you some time to figure it out. If you figured it out, very nice. Yes, we always have to constrain our views, or else this edit text will jump to the top left. So let us constrain it. So we want it to be centered horizontally. So we put it from the left and from the right by equal amounts. So the tug of war, no one wins. It's always in the center. Now we don't want to put it from the top and from the bottom equally. We want the top one to win, so that it will stick to the top of the screen. Now let us head back over to our finished app. You notice here there is some space here between the app bar, which is this bar here, and our edit text. Now that we can implement that by this thing called a margin. So you can change this margin to something like 16. So this units are DPs, so you can add something custom that you want, 34, or you can stick with the common the default ones. Notice all of these are multiples of 8, 16, 24, 32. The best practice in Android layouts is try to stick with multiples of 8. This is little, in the future we might talk about this, but that's the general principle, is try to stick with multiples of 8. So we add a 16 dp margin at the top, and very nice. So let us run the app on our, let's select the emulator, let's run the app, and let us see it in action. Have a quick look at the clock, 1:30, good. And let's open a build pane so we can see the progress of our app being built. So we wait for all the tick marks, we get the tick marks, and now our new app opens up, and perfect, we get to see this. Now earlier our app only displayed information. Now we allow our user to actually enter information here. So you notice this, it's text, right? You can type in text. You can also use your keyboard for an emulator here, and backspace on your keyboard, so that also works. Now the thing is, it by default it had this name written in the text view. However, we don't want that. So here's the thing: choose your edit text from the layout here or the component tree, and head over to the text attribute and delete this. So currently our edit text is pre-filled with this name. So let's delete this. So now if you notice here, this edit text is empty. So now when you restart the app, the edit text will be empty, which is what we want. We don't want the user to delete the pre-filled text and then write the amount that they want to convert, right? So let us see how the app looks now. Let's give it a few seconds. Very nice, it opened up. It's empty. Now you can directly start typing numbers. Very nice. However, there's one thing. By default, it opened up this keyboard that has all alphabets. Now, we don't need alphabets. All we need is numbers. So how do we do that? Well, choose your edit text again. Now, there's some amazing attribute called input type here. So if you don't find it in common attributes, you can search it in the all attributes section, but it's usually then in common attributes. Click on this flag here, and you get this long list of stuff. You can click on clear or remove everything and find something that says decimal. So you can search here, or let's see, so number would do. So now you can click on apply. So now let's see what this does. So it's best to be seen. So instead of showing earlier it was person name, right? The input type, person name. But now when the input type is number, it shows you a different keyboard, and it only accepts numbers and decimals. So let us click here. You notice this keyboard? So now the user can't type in any alphabets, and also it's easy for the user because they don't have to click that bottom thing where it says 1, 2, 3 and then type in the numbers. This is very easy. You can just type in the numbers directly. Very nice. Now, our last thing that we have to edit in this, let us head over here. You notice, so let us give it some time to refresh. You notice this hint? So that's what we're going to implement. Now the user doesn't know what to type here. So click on your edit text and choose this property called hint. And here you can type something like enter the amount in US dollar and enter. And you notice now there's this grayed out text. And when you start the app, you notice it appears here in gray. And it's not actual text, but it's just text that appears. So enter the amount in USD. All right, I have to enter the amount here in USD. So when I click on this, when I type something, it disappears. When we delete it, it appears. So we allow, so user knows what to enter here. Very nice. Now let us check. So yes, I'll give some time for people to catch up. So this was a new widget that we learned. So perfect. I think I'll move on now. Our next thing is we need a text view here. So our text view. So let us implement our text view. So this is, you can take it as a challenge. So can you implement a text view that is stuck to the bottom of this edit text? So you can watch this video if you for the solution, but you can give it a try yourself. So drag it from the palette onto our layout or component tree. It's not constrained, yes. Now the top of this text view goes to the bottom of our edit text, and horizontally it is, we can do this. Perfect. So now these two things are sticking. So how will you have some space between these two? They can take some time to think about it. Yes, if you figure it out, yes. So add a margin. So let's add an 8 dp margin. There's a little bit of space there. Perfect. Now let us check here. We need a text view, a button, and a button. Text view, button, button, button. So let us implement that. So again, you can take this as a challenge and try to figure it out how will we do it. So if not, you can of course refer here and be sure to put your questions on the chat section of YouTube, and Marisha and Nidesh will interrupt me and will answer those questions. So now add a text view somewhere here, constrain it to the bottom. However, if you note here, there's a lot of space between the bottom of this text view and the top of this text view. So add a very large margin here. So here we'll add a margin of 32, maybe even 64. So that's a multiple of 8, 64. And now center it horizontally. Center it horizontally. Perfect. So we have centered it horizontally, and now we need 3 buttons. As you note here, Canadian dollar, Indian rupee, and euro. So when you click on the button, this text view will change, but let us implement those buttons here. Now again, you can take that as a challenge, drag it from the palette, button number 1. Actually, let's give a really large margin. So 32, 64, let's give it like a 96. Let's see how that looks. That looks a little better. And now this button, the top of here, let's add like 16 dp margin and center it horizontally. It's also, so it is pulled equally from both sides, so it is centered. Let's add 2 more buttons. The same thing, top goes to the bottom of the above view, left, right. So it is centered. The tug of war, no one wins, is always in the center. These 2 buttons are sticking, so let us add a margin. Add your 3rd button. Top goes to the top of this button. Left goes to the left of this screen. Right goes to the right of the screen. Add a margin because these 2 buttons are sticking. add a 16 dp margin, and now you have this relatively simple layout. Let me reduce the brightness. My eyes are twitching a little bit, so give some rest, look outside, and resume. So now we have this relatively simple layout that takes in an amount here in US dollars, and now here we should say like Canadian dollars, Indian rupee, and euros. How would we do that? You can think about it. Yes, click on the button. We have done it many times now. Change this text. So let me show you what we want. We want Canadian dollar, Indian rupee, within the bracket you want is 3-letter code, and then euro. So add the text for these 3 buttons. So you can take that as a challenge. So let's do it now. Canadian dollar, and here we can write CAD. Don't worry about the capitalization. It's all caps always. Buttons will be all caps. Second one will be Indian rupee, INR. Third one will be euro, EUR, and we have this text view. Very nice. Now this text also has to change. It says convert USD to. So let us do that. Let's do convert USD to. Perfect. We have that there. Now, excuse me. Now for if you notice here, let this rebuild. So it should say is equal to question mark in the beginning, because no value is entered here. You notice here is equal to question mark. Then when the user types some value here and then clicks on the button, then it should update. So this shouldn't say text view, of course. It should say is equal to question mark. And now our UI is complete. It doesn't look beautiful, which will be our second part of this session. So first we're only building the basic layout. So our 3 components. First is build the basic layout. Second is build the coding part of it. Third is make the layout look beautiful with colors and proper text size, fonts. So it'll look beautiful like this. So we'll go in increments. So now have a quick look at the watch, 1:43. So all right. So now let's head over. So now we have to head over to our code. So let's head over to our code. And now, actually, before that, we have to introduce a new concept. Let me connect the charger. All right, this is a new concept that we're going to learn now, is that every view on your layout has something called ID. So you click on all the views here, you notice this ID in the attributes pane, ID. It is something unique. So ID is like your social security number. Each one has a unique social security number, or like a driving license number, a unique driving license number. So whenever you want to identify a person, right, you can use your social security number, and you can be sure that there's no other person that has the same number. So we must add a unique ID to each of these views, and we'll go over why are we doing that. First, let us add a unique ID. Now, edit text. There's something we have to note here is the convention of adding an ID. So always it's all small letters and only underscore for spaces. So the convention says the first 2 letters would be the first 2 letters of your widget name. So edit text, so ET, first 2 letters. So I don't know if this is big enough. Let me increase the text font size. And if it asks this, click yes. So let us increase the font size. 18, maybe too much, or maybe fine. So it must be a little more clear for all of you now. So the first 2 letters is the first 2 letters of your widget, then underscore, then you type what is that widget meant for. It is meant for the value. So ET underscore value. Now for this text view, text view TV. So TV underscore, what's it meant for? It's meant for showing the value. TV underscore value. This one. And click yes if it asks you. This one. This is a text view. TV underscore, what's it doing? It's showing a label. It's not going to change ever. So you don't need an ID for this, but let's just give it label. Now I will do this button, and hopefully you can get the pattern and do these two as a challenge. So for the first one, button. Now the button for the code for a button is not B, but it's actually BTN. So BTN underscore. Now we'll write the it is meant for Canadian dollar. So as a challenge, if you want to use the same thing, so think about what ID will you give for these two. And I will do it, and if you want, you can do it. You can see this video as a solution. So let's do BTN underscore INR, right? It shows Indian rupees. Click on yes. For euro, BTN underscore EUR, euro. And okay, it didn't give any thing, so don't reflection yes. Now you notice each of these views have a unique ID. None of them are equal, and they're following the convention of what an ID should be. Now, why are we doing this? Let us see. In our code, what we want to do is we want to access these views in our layout. So first, let us create variables, global variables. So within our main activity class, let us create global variables for each of the views that will change or that we want to access. So currently we want to only access this one, this to get the amount the user entered, this one to display the converted amount, this one to check, like if the user taps this button, to check if the user taps this button, check if the user taps this button. So we only are concerned with these 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a label, so we don't really, it will always stay static. So we don't really need to think about that too much. So head over to your Java and create a variable for each of those views. So our first one is edit text. So, and if they ask you to import, if it's red, alt enter and import that. So each of the widgets here in our XML, they have a class that's defined by Android. So edit text has this edit text class. You can hold control and hover over it. You see this class edit text. So it has a class. Now the convention for naming variables in Java, global variables in Java is in Android is M, that says member variable, then almost the same convention as your ID. So camel case, first of all, first 2 letters, that's the first 2 letters of this, MET and then value. Very similar. Next is text view. So we made one for this one. Let's create one for this one now. So M TV value. Now for these 3 buttons. So I will do the first button, and you can create these 2 as a challenge. Try to see if you are getting this. So let me do the first one, button M. The 3-letter or the short code for button is BTN. And what's this button for? CAD. So we're creating variables of this button type. So can you create 2 more variables for INR and EUR? So you can give it a try, and you can look at this as a solution. INR and button. So if I'm going too fast, let me type in button. There's only one chain, click this one. M, BTN, EUR, and semicolon. Now you have these 5 variables. Very nice. Now the thing is, they aren't equated to any value. You haven't assigned any value to these variables. Now that's when, in this onCreate method, you will write that code for that. So you will initialize these variables. Let's initialize the first one to something. What is that something? Basically, you want to equate this MET value variable to this view here. How will you do it? That brings us to this amazing method defined by Android called find view by ID. So let us implement that. Go back in Java, type in here find view by ID. Now within it, type in it expects an ID here, so you can type in r.id dot. Now type the same ID of this view, which is et_value. So always start with r.id, which is resources.ids. So r.id et_value semicolon. So this powerful method, what it does is it looks in your XML file for a view with this ID. It searches this et_value. Is it equal to et_value? Yes. So it stops, and then it returns the view that it found. It returns this view to this variable. So it finds the view with this ID in your XML layout, and it equates it to this Java variable. Let's do it for all the 5. So you can do this as a challenge now. So so you can try to figure out what's the pattern here. So for the second variable is equal to find view by ID, r.id, always r.id dot. Now here you can write tv_value, which is this view. So what it does, Android searches. Okay, find view by ID, tv_value. Is this tv_value? No. Is this tv_value? Yes. Stop. Return this view. Return it to this variable. So now as a challenge, you can do it for the same for the buttons. mbtn cad is equal to find view by ID, r.id dot button cad, and same for all the other ones. Button inr is equal to find view by ID, r.id dot button inr, m button inr cad, last is eur, find view by ID, r.id dot button eur. Now if you notice, first it was gray. It was gray because it was never used. Now you're assigning a value to it. So now all of these became purple, which changes a global variable. Nice. Now you have, that's why we added an ID to each of these views. So that way you can uniquely identify it in the layout. Now, let us, so this is a challenge. Let's see if you can use what you learned in the previous app and try to do it here. I will do it for one, and you can do the other 2 buttons. So I will do it for this button. Can you add an onClick method in your Java file for all these 3 buttons? So last time you added an onClick for this. So I will do it for one, and you can use that and find the pattern and do it for the other 2. So always for onClick, now if you click on this button and click on onClick, no methods are defined. So always define a method, public void on, let's do on btn cad click, right on button click. Always, if you don't pass any parameter here, it won't recognize it here. So always be sure to pass a parameter here called view. So if it's red, always alt enter and import that. Next time we'll even show how to do auto imports, but for now we'll do it manually to understand what's going on. So now here, so can you create, okay, once you've created this method with the parameter of view in your XML file, it will appear now on button CAD clicked. So when this button is clicked, this method will be run. A quick look at the time. All right, this method will be run. So can you implement OnClickListeners or OnClick methods for these 2? So you can do it yourself and you can refer to this as a solution, or you can follow along. So let's create 2 methods for these 2, similar to this one. So all I'll do is I will do it again. I won't copy paste, so we'll get some practice. Public void on btn inr clicked. Always it must have the parameter view in order to make it an onClick method. Then one for the euros also. So public void on euro clicked or on button btn euro click. There's no convention here, but we're just doing like on something clicked. You don't have to always write it this way. To make it an on-click method, pass in view, and so you are done. If you notice this is grayed out. It's never used because we haven't included, like, none of these buttons call these methods. So this is not grayed out. This is grayed out. So now go back to your XML and add for INR button, add on button INR clicked. For euro, on click, add button euro clicked. So if you remember what this does, now the gray thing is gone because some view is calling this, so it knows everything is fine. So now when the CAD button is clicked, this method will be run. When INR button is clicked, it looks in the on click attribute, on button clicked, searches for this method here, on button click no, on button INR click no, on button INR click yes, so it will execute this code. So same for the euros one. So if you have everything so far, you can run the app and just see how it is. We haven't put any log statements, so we won't know if this method is actually run. So if you want, we can do a very quick thing, logd, so log debug, and for this you can just type button CAD clicked, and for the tag you can type anything. Basically you have to pass two strings here. So for the tag you can just pass like debug. Now you can copy paste this for the sake of time. Control C, Control V, Control V, and just change this. So INR, change this to EUR. Restart the app, and when the app starts again, open the run pane. So app is started, so now you can open the run pane. Ignore all of these are like by the Android system. Now when you click on this, good, let's get rid of this. Button CAD clicked, INR clicked, UR clicked, all of your click listeners work. Perfect. So I went quite ahead. So if there are any questions, if there are any like big questions, we can do it now, or we can even do it at the end.
Yeah, let's do the questions at the end.
Perfect.
Just
Perfect at the end.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll move on then. So now we have this. Now our thing is, when this button is clicked, we want to convert the amount the user typed and write the converted amount here. So let's see how we do that. So let's do the same first for our CAD clicked for Canadian dollars. So delete the log statement. We don't need it as of now. Now here, you want to extract the double that was written in this edit text. So here you can type string, or you can type in a double initial value is equal to MET value, which is refers to this edit text, right? Which is linked with this edit text dot get text dot toString. Now you notice that toString converts this to a string. So basically it says whatever the user has typed in this edit text, get that text, convert it to a string. Now a string, and you want to equate it to a double. So in Java you can wrap it with double.parseDouble. If you want a shortcut, Alt Enter and choose the third option, wrap using double.parseDouble. So what that does is it takes in a string and it converts it to a double form and it sends it to this variable. So now you have the initial value that the user entered. Now you can type in double converted value is equal to. Now for this thing, head over to Google and find out what is one USD in Canadian dollars, because we want the exchange rate, right? So one US dollar equals to 1.36. You can copy this and head over back to a currency converter. So so initial value times 1.36. That is the converted value. So now you have the converted value. Now, say this text view, right? It's MTV value, which equates to TV underscore value, which equates to TV underscore value, which is this. So you want to edit the text of this when user clicks this. So let's see what we mean by that. So here, mtv value dot set text. Here you got text from the edit text. Now here you want to set the text of the set text. So in the parameters for this, pass the string that you want to change it to. So here you can do something. So easiest way is equal to plus, which is not recommended, but for now let's just do it, converted value plus cad space. So it gives a warning. We'll ignore the warning. Let's restart the app now. Quick look at the clock. 2:1. Perfect. So now let's very quickly type in 1, because we know 1 should give us 1.36. Click on the button. Very nice, you get 1.36. So what it did was it took the value, did the conversion, and set the text. Now, very quickly, since we are running like very close to the end, so the best thing to do here is use string.format. So in Java, there's something called string.format, which takes in a string, and you must have seen this kind of notation here, %point to f. So basically it says, like if you note now, if you put 1.5, all right, so it doesn't take in decimals now. So it gives us this. So we want only 2 decimal places, right? Canadian dollar has only two decimal places. So use %point to f, and for the parameter, you can use point to f cad converted value. And now Control X, save it here. Okay. Now like a challenge for you. Can you do the same thing for these methods here? So all you have to change is this, the conversion rate, because INR won't have the same conversion rate as CAD, and then change this. So you can take your time and you can try to do it. You can refer this as a solution. So all we'll do is just copy paste. Control C, Control V, Control V. And now next step, check the conversion rate. So 1 USD in INR. 74.93. Let me update it here. 74.93. 1 USD in euros is equal to 0.88. So let us 0.88. And now we have to change this Canadian dollar, Indian rupee, and euros. All of these have 2 decimal places. Let's say if you had a currency that has like 3 decimal places, you can change this to a 0.3. I think euros has 2, so we'll leave it at that. So now it converts with its respective values. Let's restart the app. It gives us with 2 decimal places. One thing I noted actually is a mistake is this, where you have choose the edit text. It's not number, actually it's something that says decimal. So I have to search that. This one, number decimal. I chose the wrong one. So you can delete number, or you can just leave it as choose number decimal. So that way you can input like 1.5 or something similar. So that was a accident that I made. Restart the app again. So now you can type in 1, converts it to Canadian dollar, Indian rupees, and euros. So if the text is too small for, I'm sure, but it does it. So we'll make this beautiful 2.5. So we'll do it soon. So we are very close to finish our coding part of it. So I will go slowly. We extracted the value, get text or toString. It gave us a string. We converted the string to a double. We saved it in this initial value variable. We multiplied it with the exchange rate, so USD to Canadian dollar exchange rate, saved it in this variable, and then we took the text view, which is this text view, this one, and we did set text and we displayed it. Everything is the same for INR and for Euro. Now, so I hope everything is fine so far. Now, one thing to note is, what if you keep it empty? What will happen? Oh, where did the app go? Well, this is an app crash. So you go in the run pane, you'll see these red lines, which refers to an app crash. So an app crash is when you have an exception thrown. So you can go through all of these lines. Don't go through the one trick is, whichever line has this grayed out thing, you can mostly skip it. See the things that is closer to this one. So it says empty string, something closer to here, and you can click on this. There's some problem with this line of code. So what's happening is, this double.parseDouble, it can't take in an empty string. It must always have a string with some value. So let us think about it. Restart the app. Wow, it started pretty fast. So if nothing is typed by the user and you click on any of these buttons, it must assume that the user has typed in 0. So how do we do that? So let us do some extra lines of code here. String entered value is equal to, we extract this value. So be sure to leave any questions here, because we're going into some kind of coding here. So leave your questions and we'll answer it at the end. So string entered value, we extracted the value from the edit text the user entered. If entered value dot equals empty, then initial value will equal to 0. Else initial value will equal to this double.parseDouble. So I will write this and I'll explain what it means. And of course, if we declare this variable up here, so don't worry, I've done a lot and I'll explain it in detail. So let's see what we did. So we let's put a semicolon here. This double variable is not initialized to anything. We get the value entered in the edit text. We convert it to us, we get the value, convert it to a string. Save the string in this entered value. If entered value is empty, so if the user doesn't type anything and this button is clicked, then initial value equals 0. So we assume the user has typed in 0. And then if that's not the case, so if it's not empty, so else part, then parse that string that the user has entered into a double and save it in initial value. And then this is the same. We multiply it with its exchange rate and display it. So now let us run this app again and let's see if it doesn't crash for CAD. Notice 0.00. It doesn't crash. It crashes for these two. So very simple, is you can copy paste all of this everywhere. But now copy paste the same code in multiple places. Can you think of some easy way that we usually do in programming? If same code is there in multiple places, yes, we create a method. So let us create our method called public void get entered value. Let us not return void, let's return a double. And what it takes in as a parameter, we will think about that. Let's copy this code first. Here. And then what we do is we return initial value. Or you can do this, return 0. If this is the case, return double.parseDouble. So let me explain line by line what we did here. So we extract the value first, save it in this variable. If that value is equal to empty, it returns 0. So our entered value is assumed to be 0. If it is not equal to empty, so it comes in the else case, and then we parse that string as a double. And so now you have to just call this method. So here you can do double initial value is equal to get entered value. And you can do the same here. So initial value is, don't extract it here. Call this thing get entered value. Same thing here. Call this here get entered value. So I went too fast there, I'm pretty sure. So what we did was we deleted this line of code, and we are calling this method that does the check if it's empty or not. Cool. So if there are any questions, be sure to leave it in. There's a lot of stuff we're doing here. Now let's run the code. Quick look at the clock. 2:11. That's all right. Oh, app is restarted. Now you see none of this crashed. And if you type a value here, 25, you get the respective answers. If you again make it empty, you get 0. So you have completed the coding part of the app, and now, so pat your back, congratulate yourself, you've come quite far. So very nice. If there are any quick coding questions, we could do that now, or else, as Uday said, we'll do it at the end. So I'll move over to our next part that we want to discuss. So we finished all the coding part. Very nice, congratulations, you've done quite a lot. Now the last part is, it doesn't look as beautiful as this. So you see these colors here, you see this text here, and so that's when we're going to tap into material design. So very quickly, let us head on to what material design is. Material design is a set of guidelines that Google provides, so it's made by Google, that helps you to create beautiful UIs for multiple platforms. So the most things that we are going to, like there are many guidelines that are given, but the things that we are going to focus on is typography. So font size, font color, font, everything related to fonts, and colors, everything related to colors, such as this color, yellow. So let's see how we do it. Head over to this website, material.io/design. You can Google search it too. So I'll just click on this link, or I'll Google search it along with you. Material.io/design. So material.io/design. And you should get to this page. Now here, there are many of these guidelines. Be sure to select typography, the type system. And you note here, they have specified, like if you have seen these like headlines 1 to 6, it's somewhat similar to web development, where you have headline 1 to 6 and so on and so forth. You have like body text. So somewhat similar, but Google has already specified like all these amazing combinations of text size, letter spacing, font weight, and any font you can input here. So you get these amazing guidelines for how your text should look like. So
sorry to jump in, Ron. We have a question here. Yeah. Someone is asking, well, she's having some issues. Basically, clicking button and nothing happens.
So some troubleshooting methods is...
And it was working before for her. No, it's not.
So some very quick troubleshooting methods is in this OnClick. Be sure that you've selected the method. So I think you must have done that because it was working for you before. So I think that the best thing is at the end we can quickly look over and try to find your problem. But for now you can follow along because we're not going to touch the code. We're only going to touch the visual parts of it. So we'll try to troubleshoot your problem at the end, and you can follow along because we're only going to change the visual aspects of this layout. So no problem. So thank you for the question, and we'll talk about that. Now here we can use these things, these pre-selected things here, in two ways. Very quickly, we are closing to the end. So one is manually. you can look at this chart here. That's again there on the website. So I took it from the documentation itself from the website. Like if you want very large text, let's say you want something that looks like this, no need of figuring out what kind of size should I have, what kind of font size. Everything Google has already provided for us. Just type in 48 and type in letter spacing of 0, font weight of regular, choose your typeface or your font. Everything is fine. Second, which is the recommended way, which we should do, is automatically. So you can just say, I want my font to look like H3. No need of specifying, I want my font to have font size of 48, letter spacing of 0, weight of regular. You see what we're doing? We are downloading all of these, so we can just specify H3 instead of specifying these individually. Not a problem. Let's see how we do it. So to download it, head over to, you can Google search this, material design dependency Android. So material design dependency Android. It will be the first link. So material design dependency Android, first link. And here, so it's basically a shortcut. You don't have to search exactly where it is. Now copy this line of code where it says 1 dependent library 3, then third point in that. Copy this line of code. Control C. So in dependencies, copy it. Head over back to your project. Now, so far it's dealing with app. Expand this drop down for Gradle scripts. Double click on this build.gradle. Be sure which one is selecting. Be sure to select the app one, the module app. So once you're here, scroll, you'll see Android, scroll to dependencies, then add this line of code that you have, Control V. Now you might get this warning that says 1.1.0. So you can just change this version part of it to 1.1.0. Now, what will our app do? It will download from this package online, and we can use it in our app. To download, click on Sync Now. You get these tick marks. Once you get all the tick marks, it's downloaded. Click 218. All right, so we are very close to the end, so we have to hurry up. So material, so you download it. Now, very nice. Go back here. Now with each of these, you can do some cool thing. Search an attribute called style. Here you can type in, so you can refer to this material design website and choose a style that you like. So maybe headline 4. Cool. Now all you have to do is choose this in the style attribute, headline 4. Be sure to select material components.headline 4. Enter. It's too big. Choose headline 5. Let's try how headline 5 will look. That's also too big. Headline 6 seems to be the correct one. So let's change to 6. This seems good. Now this one, we can choose headline 6. So let's choose something bigger like headline 4. So you notice already it gave us some, like it looks much beautiful now. Now for the text view, something bigger, let's choose style. So I'm pretty sure, so if you are still stuck here, anyone, I haven't seen the comments. So if this, so I assume like you've done it. If not, we'll cover it soon. I'm running short of time, so we'll surely deal with cover it at the end. Now for the text view, it's not in the common attributes pane, so you can search for style attribute, style. Find it here. Let's do headline 4. Enter headline 4. You get this much bigger now. For this one, let's do subtitle. So again, search for style, subtitle. There are 2 subtitles. So be sure to select material.subtitle. So search. So there are many of these. These are all not what we need. Material components.subtitle. So there are 1 and 2. Let's select 1. It doesn't matter. You get this. And now our app looks much more beautiful. So you get like a much bigger font size. The font weight is also correct. So everything looks the way it should. So, okay, very quickly, I'm pretty sure some of you might have problems with how do we include it. Copy this line of code and paste it, expand Gradle scripts, the app build.gradle where it says app, and then find the dependencies section and paste that line of code within that block and change the version to 1.1.0 and click on sync now. So if anyone's stuck there, I hope that solves it. Now, so if you've done your very nice, last step, the color of our app. Now it looks green or teal to be exact. We want to change this to yellow. So how do we do that? Go back to our material design documentation, right? materialdesign.io/design. Head over to color part of it, the color system. Now, scroll all the way to the bottom. So you can see this beautiful guidelines and Google has given to make your app look beautiful across all platforms. Scroll all the way down and you'll find these amazing material design color palettes that gives you the most important colors and each shade with darkness, and it gives you the exact hex code. So no need of going through the color picker and finding the color that you want. Very simply, you can just type in blue and then choose the shade of your choice. So this is very good to use these material design colors. So one very helpful tip is head over to this website called materialpalette.com. So I will include the links. I'll share it with Manjush and Vivek so they can include it in the description. Maybe that could help. So materialpalette.com. Materialpalette.com. So enter. Now you see these, all the colors that we saw there in the documentation here, all these colors are included here. So choose the colors, you have to choose two colors of your choice. So you can choose yellow, cyan, and it shows you how the app looks. You can choose pink and mess around with these combinations until you get something you like. So I'm going to select yellow and pink. Let's just leave it as it is. You can see how it will look. Our app will look like this. Mess around with this, choose your favorite two. Then your app will look like this, so you know how your app will look. Then click on download. Then click on XML, because XML is the language that we are going to use. So once you click on XML, it will download this XML file. Open that XML file. Open it in like Notepad or anything, and you get something like this. Be sure to copy all the color tags. So all these color tags, copy all of them, right? So it already pre-selected a palette for us to use. These are all the 8 colors that we need. So in our Notepad, copy all these colors, Control-C, put your Android app, and we don't need this Gradle scripts anymore. Under res, so app, res for resources, under values, colors. You see these? Delete the previous colors. These are the colors that were used, right? You see these? They're the same things. So take this and delete all of these by pressing like backspace or whatever, and then Control V. So basically paste it, all the colors that we downloaded. Now, it still won't work. There's a small change that we do. Under values folder itself, head over to styles. And now you get these errors. So just fix them. Where was this color primary? Just delete the color part of it. So primary. Where it said color primary, just change it to primary. Why is that? Because you want to point it to this picture, to this color primary. Where it says color primary dark, you want it to point it to this primary dark here. So select here @color / this one, primary dark. So you include your colors here. In your styles, you refer to those colors in this colors.xml by @color /. So no need of going to what this means exactly. It's very easy to just change this line of code, right? So I'm pretty sure anyone can do it, right? I hope there won't be any much problem. Now, click on this, and we are very close to the end. 25. So we are struggling with time. So let's have a quick look. Our app looks beautiful. Now you click on this, you get this pink color that you have. This is the primary. Primary dark is this one. Accent is this one. You pointed the color primary in the styles.xml to the color here in colors.xml. So you can either pass in a hex code, you can mess around with these. So your app looks beautiful now. So everything works as it is. A last thing, very, very quickly, change this text to something like currency converter, not our project name. How to do that? Within the strings.xml, as we did in the last app, you can change this thing to currency converter. Restart the app, and finally, with about 4 minutes to spare, we're done. So very quickly, I'll take your questions and try to answer them. So, but we're done with the app. So any questions? I know there must be many, so we can solve them. So Yudesh and Madhusha, if there are any questions, we can go over them. So also, until Madhusha and Yudesh are getting the questions, you have done a lot. So we covered a lot, and I'm sure it's like it could be quite complex, but I try to simplify it as much as possible, and be sure to ask your questions. I'll simplify it as much as possible.
Thanks, Rohan.
Absolutely.
We're waiting for questions so far. So Mark is asking whether the slide deck will be available. Unfortunately, we're not going to share the slide deck. However, hey, Mark. I know Mark. So he's one of our GDEs. The video will be available in a few hours, and you're welcome to use it. But then, Mark, in this case, more than happy to ping me later, and we can collaborate and get Rohan involved if you want to do something together. For sure.
Also, one thing for everyone is you can stay updated with this dsclsu.com/Android. So this is so I'm from DSC at LSU. So here, we're going to update this page. So any of the resources like GitHub links, and if at all, like some links or some, let's say some slides that we can share or anything, you can stay updated with this page, and everything will be here. So dsclsu.com/Android for any resources. So any of the questions, and we can answer those.
Okay, so Divya is going to asking about task execution finished, dependencies.
Oh.
I'm not sure whether there's some context to this. I think she asked this question before, right?
So I believe it might be something related to this that you might be asking. So let me try to go over it. So you can Google search material design dependency Android. So Android, it depends on this material design package that's online. So you download it, head over to the first link. Then under depend on your library, the third point, copy this line of code, Control C, and head over to our Android Studio project. Head over to our Gradle scripts that handles all our dependencies. Head over to the second this build.gradle that says app. Double click on it, you'll reach this file. Scroll all the way down until you see this dependencies block. Within the block, just anywhere, paste that line of code and change the version to 1.1.0. And hopefully that was your question. And then whenever you change the build.gradle file, the sync now option appears. Be sure to click the sync now. So you can, I hope that that was your question and it answered your question. So anything else? We can answer those questions. And also, yes, sorry, go ahead.
So Divya is saying it's not working. She's going to try again. Yeah, keep us posted, Divya.
Absolutely. And also from this DSC website, you can refer to the GitHub code. So you can dsclsu.com/Android and go on GitHub, and there's a README, and you can actually go through the code here and compare it with yours, and you can try to fix any problem there. Perfect. So let's see if we can solve any of the questions. So let's see.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is I don't see any other questions coming in, but more than welcome to drop a comment and ask any questions, and I'll make sure we get back to you. And that being said, let's wrap up. So huge thank you to Rohan for putting the content together, for running the sessions both these weekends, and we're running this again next week. And you can find all our events at www.totv.me. It's going to direct you to our Eventbrite page, and you can check out all of them. So next Tuesday, we're running another Student Entrepreneur Series event with Graham Zink in partnership with the DMZ. And then Rohan will be back again next Saturday, and we're going to be building two other applications. And we're going to continue the journey for the next 8 weeks going forward. So thank you so much, Rohan.
Absolutely, thank you.
And have a great evening for everybody.
All right. Thank you.